All right. What a great place to start is the title of this episode. And our intention with this episode is that this will be a great place for you to start if this is the first time you hear me and Eric speak in our Becoming Great podcast. This episode is going to be about why we're doing this podcast, what we want you to get out of it, and a little bit about who we are. And the reason we do this episode 20 something episodes in is because we tend to just start things, and it took us 20 episodes to figure out what the hell we want to do. And before I say anything else, I want to welcome into the game Eric Bergman. Hello.
Hello, my good friend, and thank you very much for doing 20-something episodes with me. And I'm already preparing for a next introduction episode 20 episodes from now, because I'm guessing we will have changed.
I hope we will have reinvented all of this. And I love the learn by doing process of doing these recordings. Now, before we get into why we do this podcast or what it's going to be about, I want to talk about who I'm doing it with. So, like I said, I'm doing it with Eric Bergman, one of my best friends. And the reason I love to do this kind of podcast where we learn together with him is that he's one of those few people that, because I love to inspire others with new ideas and I love to try new things with my fellow humans. And when I tell Eric something new, I see his eyes light up. I see his pupils dilating, and inside his mind I see one thought that is going, I'm going to try this. And when I meet him next time, he's coming back, and not only have he tried my idea in real life, he have brought up, I tried 10 different things as well, so he have improved all of my ideas, and he have actually stress tested them, which makes him a lot of fun to learn with. And to be honest, that is just the surface level of why I like hanging out with Eric. If I'm going deeper, he's kind of like my mom's dog. My mom have a golden retriever, and he's one of my favorite beings in the entire world. And I know that deep inside that dog, there's nothing other than joy and just an overwhelming amount of kindness. There's nothing else than kindness inside of that dog. He has a heart of gold. I think that is why it's called a golden retriever. And Eric is exactly that to me. He's one of the kinder people that I know. I know that he just wants good for everyone. And that is one of the things that makes me trust him the most. And hey, buddy, welcome back. That is why I enjoy doing this podcast with you.
I mean, now when you compare me with a golden retriever, you're gonna be like Satan, because everything is Satan compared to a golden retriever. That was the most beautiful thing I've heard in a long time. Being compared to Oscar, the golden retriever. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Emil. So the reason I love doing this podcast with Emil and having him around is the constant challenging of ideas and the constant urge to see, can we do this even better? Can we come up with new things to look at this? Are they a new angle? And first thing that comes to mind is how he has been changing his diet since I got to know him, where he's like super strict vegan and like, yeah, but this is the best way. And then he starts challenging that. And now he eats nothing but meat. I'm like, hey guy, you're kind of changing your mind here. And he does the same thing with all ideas. When I can be very set in my minds and like, okay, but I've started doing this, I'm going to do that for the next 10, 15, 20 years. But he comes up with ways of challenging this and questioning this, and is always open for that feedback in the best ways. He's the perfect sparring partner to come up with ideas, and then, sure, I might go and implement him, but they're usually his ideas, so I can't really take credit for whatever I accomplish with him. And yeah, and that's combined with actually being a golden retriever friend. You know, you can see the passion in, take two dogs. They've never met before, but they meet in a park. And then someone just throws a stick. And they're not fighting over the stick. They're just running for the stick very lovingly. Someone catches it and both of them run back. And you can see their tails whipping back and forward. The eyes are sparkling and they're just shining up everything. And I feel like he's the golden retriever to my golden retriever, and we're meeting in the park of life, chasing balls and like whipping tails. So thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It sure is. And I think that diet example is a good metaphor for how we want to learn together in this podcast. Because we recorded a short video yesterday that we're going to use for our YouTube channel. And in that YouTube video, we asked the question, what is the most interesting thing about a question? Is it the answer or is it the question? And what conclusion did we come up with, Eric?
That it's neither. It's whatever is in between. That whatever takes you to the conclusion and the actual answer is the most interesting part. Like, how do you talk about these things? What kind of things do you explore? And usually you come up with lots of different answers rather than just one. And then how do you determine which answer is going to be the right one? And can you take all of those answers you come up with at first and try them in real life and actually see where it takes? That we believe that this is where the real learning happens in the process of doing this. And it struck me the other day how rare it is that the dialogue of getting to an answer happens now compared to a few years ago. Because we were having dinner over here and we talked about animals, and then one guy said, yeah, but humans are the only animals that cry. And the conversation kept going, and then after a while my friend Spirit, he like interrupted, it's that true? I can't stop thinking about this. And 2 seconds later someone had Googled it and had the answer. No, elephants cry too. But instead of like getting the conversation going, talking about it, like, why would this animal cry, why wouldn't they, what's the reason that we're crying, and how do we convey emotions and these kind of things, we missed that out because we had Google. And I think that conversation would have been more interesting than actually knowing who cries or doesn't.
I totally agree. The exploration stopped when someone Googled the answer. And we don't know what we would have learned from that exploration. And more importantly, we don't know what kind of questions would have come up that didn't arise now because we got an answer. And I completely agree. I think the reasoning to an answer is where the learning takes place. And of course, we will not get a answer. We will get many ideas that could work. And I think when we actually learn is when we try these things out in our lives and then see did this work spectacularly or did it fail miserably? And when we fail, if we take the time to reflect, that is when we can learn and improve. So that is what we're doing right now. We kind of learned something at dinner yesterday, and now we're talking about it. Now we're reflecting. And our intention is that this podcast will be an opportunity for you to kind of eavesdrop on us reflecting upon the things that we're learning right now in our lives.
Yeah, I think that's to sum it up very well. And I like the idea of just taking the time to reflect on things. And that's another reason why I love having this podcast, because we're actually dedicating time to reflect on something, which I feel that I've been missing out a lot on lately. And just sitting and preparing these podcasts becomes like a constant dialogue about, okay, what actually happened with this topic? How did we apply this? How can we do this better? And then we kind of boil that down and we keep exploring it here.
Yeah, and we explore it and we try things in our lives and when we're building our company, Great.com. So for example, take the diet example again. I mean, I read a lot about diet, and I read a lot of
He's a real nerd when it comes to health.
I'm a little bit nerdy, yes. So there are a lot of good research.
He's like Sheldon Cooper of Big Bang Theory nerdy.
So there's a lot of research that say that plant-based diets are really good for you. There are some research and idea that says that an animal-based diet is good for you. I think a lot of confusion comes from that everybody actually have different bodies and need different things. But for me, how can I know unless I try things, right? So I try eat a plant-based diet. Now I try to eat an animal-based diet. I'm probably not going to do it forever because of the environment. But I want to try it and see how I feel from it. I want to try, what is it like eating 1 time per day or eating every 2 days? I want to try different things so I can know what works for me.
So you want to be a human guinea pig, basically?
Life scientist or human guinea pig. It's pretty much the same thing.
Life scientist, I like that word.
So what would be, because I know one of your biggest ideas that you live by is just begin, just try things like we did with this podcast. But is there a disadvantage to this? Because I mean, I could see how it's smarter for someone to just listen to a podcast, hear our mistakes and learn from them instead of having to go out, be a life scientist and do all the mistakes yourself. So do you experience any downsides with this approach?
So you could apply just begin, just do things, don't overthink it, just get started into pretty much everything in life. And where I see the biggest downside doing this myself is probably when I'm making jokes. I tend to say things before I think about them, and sometimes they get mean and hurtful, and then it's just a really shitty idea to play out that joke, but it just happened. So I think that's the biggest downside I can see by just beginning and not overthinking, is that sometimes people get hurt, and that can be hard to recover from. When it comes to podcasting, for example, sure, I think it's valuable to listen into other people's conversations, and you will learn from that. And it's a good way of doing it if you're not podcasting yourself, or if you're podcasting and you want to get better. I think it's a far better tactic to just start doing it yourself if learning is what you're out for. Then you can eavesdrop as well and see what we do, but I think I have a hard time seeing a place where it's not better to just start. Unless maybe you want to build a rocket and fly to the moon, then you probably want to do your research thoroughly and not just putting yourself on a flying bomb.
But I mean, you are right now just doing a lot of Instagram stories and sharing your ideas out into the social media space. I mean, I guess some of those ideas could be offensive to someone, or you could say something where someone really takes umbrage. Why wouldn't it be better to just check in with someone before you put all of that stuff out there? So you know that you're sane, that your ideas are sane.
I think that goes together with making jokes. That sometimes people will get offended, and sometimes they should get offended because I'm saying stupid things that I haven't thought through, and I'm actually being mean without really understanding it. So yeah, it would be better in those specific situations to be more cautious. But let's say I do 20 things. 19 of them are solid, or at least not shitty. They're not hurting anyone. So they have a positive effect on my life. And one thing have a negative effect on my life. And if I were to analyze them deeply before I did them, I wouldn't probably do any of them because it would take too much time. And now I've just done 20 things, out of which the net effect is very positive. So I think as long as I'm not hurting anyone badly, which I can see teenage me did because he was a lot more ruthless when it came to these kind of things. But I can't think of a situation in the last year, at least, where it actually damaged anyone in a severe manner that I couldn't really fix. So then I think it's better. Am I missing something here? Do you want to destroy my theory?
I could not destroy, but I could pick deeper into this, and I still would prefer to move on. So, because I have one very specific question that I want to ask you. Is that okay?
Shoot.
All right.
If you have thought it through, because I don't want
you
hurting me.
Okay, I might rough you up a little bit.
Okay.
Now, so, because you talked about that you have changed a lot now from your teenage self, obviously, which I hope that I have as well. And this podcast is all about growth, which means that you want to change in some way, right? So I'm wondering, what kind of person do you want to become in, let's say, 10 years' time? This podcast is called Becoming Great. What is great to you? Who do you want to become?
Okay, there are a lot of things where I would like to improve on, and there is a lot of things where I can see that I've improved so much on, but that I'm still on a journey to somewhere. And one thing that I've been struggling with my entire life is envy and jealousy. Like I struggle to be happy for other people, at least in some occasions. In some occasions I can be. And yeah, one thing that came to mind happened the other week, 2 weeks ago maybe. And I listened to a podcast with a guy named Sam Harrison, I think. He's the founder of an organization called Charity Water. And Charity Water has done such amazing things. They've provided water, fresh water for 8 million people across the globe and drilled wells and done so many cool things. And it's an amazing story. And I find myself listening to it, and the first feeling that I have is jealousy. It's like, wow, I want to be the guy who did that. I want to be a person that just feels, wow, what an amazing guy. I'm so happy that he has done these things. I'm so happy for the 8 million people who got water. But there is still a part of me that's jealous and envious. And yeah, if I see 10 years into the future, well, we can start. If I look 10 years back, I would have been a lot more jealous and a lot more envious of this, and would have not been able to focus that much on the gratitude of what he's actually accomplished and all the people he has helped. So I'm on a path to hopefully 10 years from now being in a place where I can hear stories like that, or I can see similar things happening around me, or completely different things where other people get happy and doing something that I would like to do, but I can feel only joy for their experience and only be present with their happiness and seeing, wow, what amazing things they do. I'm so happy they are happy. So if it's one direction I would like to grow in, well, there is plenty of directions, but to be able to get to a place where I'm so, I don't know, maybe secure with myself, maybe that's what's missing, that I still feel a big need for validation. I don't know what that is within me that makes me feel this way, but I do feel this way. And I don't know what's the underlying factors about it. But I like to get to a point where whenever something happens, regardless if that's someone doing a great organization like Charity Water, or just, I can get the same feeling when I see someone dancing. I'm a passionate dancer, but I see someone who's much, much, much better than I am. And I would love to just be happy for their success and everything they do. But instead I feel inferior and jealous, like, why can't I do that? Why I'm not that good? And yeah, that's definitely an area where if 10 years from now I could say something and change something or develop into something, then that's a place I would like to grow.
All right. And to clarify, before I respond to everything you said, is that the guy's name is Scott Harrison.
Scott Harrison,
sure.
Sorry.
And if you want to check him out, he has one of the best TED Talks I've seen on charity. It's a TED Talk, so Google him. He's a very good storyteller. And I can totally relate to what you're saying. I was struggling a lot with exactly the same thing when my background is I played poker professionally. And I remember having days where I played many poker tournaments and maybe I had lost a lot of money during the last week. And then one of my friends that sits in the next room with me, he wins a big tournament. Maybe he wins $100,000. And I'm in pain and I want to be happy for him, but I'm struggling to go there because I'm still dealing with my own stuff. So what is your plan to, because I have some ideas why this is happening, but why do you think it's happening? Actually, you did answer that. Can I share? Well,
yeah, feel free to share.
Yeah, because you actually said it. I think the healthy part about it, because if there is a behavior in me, I don't want to look at it as only a character flaw. I want to see, is there something healthy deep down in this seemingly unhealthy reaction? And that deep down, I really want to achieve what this person has. That is something really healthy. So I want to be better at actually validating myself for feeling this way. You know, it's good that you want to be what that person is doing. So that is the healthy part. The unhealthy part is that I have not trained myself in that situation to stop thinking about where I'm currently not, and instead actively putting thoughts in that would validate and uplift this other person that have achieved this thing. I haven't.
Can you explain this?
Okay, so I haven't trained. When I look back, because I was in Vegas and I wanted to be happy for this guy and I couldn't. And I was looking back at my life and I said, when have I actually trained myself to really think thoughts and do behaviors that uplifts the spirit of this guy's success, even though I'm feeling the way that I do? So I have never trained it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So basically you haven't tried to be happy for someone else in situations like that before, so you haven't trained that muscle or that habit.
Exactly. So if I look at it as an undeveloped muscle rather than a character flaw, there's nothing wrong with me. I just haven't trained it, right? So I have the muscle. It's just that if I have never gone to the gym, I will be weak. And it's not that there's something wrong with me. I just haven't gone to the gym, right? So I can separate the behavior from my character.
Yeah, I like that. Makes sense. And it can probably, do you think you can tie it back to like childhood and upbringing as well? It's like, how often did we see other people be genuinely happy for other people? Did our parents do that? Did our siblings do that? Or did we kind of get into that habit already then, or did we not? Yeah. And if we didn't, then of course we never developed the habit of actually being genuinely happy for someone else.
Yeah, and I think what's more important is that if I look back at my upbringing, did I have a character in my life that teach me thought habits that would lead to that genuine experience? If that makes sense. I remember it was in a Christmas. It was a Christmas. I was like 7-8 years old, and I wanted to get a computer game. Probably, it definitely was a hard present. And then I got from my grandmother I got like a blanket or something, and my brother at the same time got this big toy car or something, and I was not happy for my present, and I was jealous of my brother, and it was obvious, everybody could see it. I wasn't great at hiding that emotion, and my mom told me, "You're being rude. Be happy."
Yeah.
Which is causing me to get the idea that there's something wrong with my character. Right? Because I wasn't helped. How can I think here?
Yeah. Instead, you're being told you're doing it wrong and probably felt feelings of shame and more negative emotions. Yeah. Rather than actually understanding how to deal with this.
Yeah, and what's even worse, it's not even that I did it wrong. It's I was wrong. There's wrong with me, right?
Yeah. It's
and
not
since
behavior,
then, no one thought me this. So of course, my muscles are undeveloped. Of course.
Yeah. So how would you practice it then? What advice would you give to me if I want to grow into this person in 10 years' time?
I got a great way of dealing with this things that I think is great, at least. I got it from a spiritual teacher called Matt Kahn. And what he's saying is, don't fake anything, right? If I'm not happy for someone, I'm not going to say, I'm happy for that person, because it's just going to register as fake in your nervous system, and it's not really going to go in. Instead, you can
basically when your mother told me be happy for him, that's what you're doing if you're trying to fake it yourself.
Yeah, I'm happy for him, but I don't feel it, so it's not real for me. What I could say probably is, I wish I was happy for him, or I wish more people were happy for each other. Those things would be true, and I think to your nervous system, that registers similarly to actually being happy for someone. So if you start there, and then I think gradually you can work yourself up to a point where you actually are genuinely happy for someone. You just need to change over time your thinking habits.
I can see that working. Just trying it out with myself now, like thinking back to this podcast and Scott Harrison, like if I'm saying to myself, I'm happy for him, I'm so happy he's doing this, doesn't quite feel true. But if I'm saying I wish I was happy for him and I wish I was happy for everything he did, I wish I could get to there, then that feels genuinely true within me.
That is 100% true, and I think that is a great way to start doing inner work. And another thing I would say, I would just send love to the part of me that wasn't feeling happy for the other guy. So if I say I love the part of me that is jealous, what that really means to me is it's okay that I feel jealous. It's not that strange because my muscles are weak. Of course they're weak. I haven't trained them. It's okay. I wish they were stronger. And over time I'm sure they will be. But for now, this character that I am, it's okay.
Yeah, makes sense. Basically thinking positive thoughts and understanding thoughts about yourself. That's what you mean by saying sending love.
I think if I say I love you, I like the word I love you, so I use it. If it doesn't resonate with you, you can say it's okay. It's the same thing. The way you are, it's okay. And I think when we take that responsibility and we grow our self-worth in that sense, I think it becomes much easier to also be happier for other people. It's like you said, you feel inferior. Can you feel like at least you are your own supporter, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I want to head on from this and you want to answer the same question. I'm curious about where you want to go.
Sure.
So who do you want to become in 10 years' time, my friend?
Well, I know on the surface level, there's a lot of things I want to learn, right? I have a couple of topics that I focus almost all of my energy on right now, which would be health, leadership, business, speaking, relationships, spirituality, I really enjoy. And I think the reason I want to get better and develop in these areas is because one of the things that brings me the most joy, like true joy, that really, well, I'm not actually sure if it's true joy. Let's be honest here. This might very well be a lot of ego reasons as well. Because when I can see someone else grow, I see their lives get more inspired and healthy or better, that really makes me feel good. And this might be a complete ego reason. I might be just wanting the validation or significance that I have managed to do this. But regardless, whatever it is that wants to see that happen makes me really feel good. So I want to put myself in a position where I can have that experience often. And I think improving these areas that I mentioned would put me in that situation. And when it feels the best to me is when it's happening indirectly. And what I mean by that is 2 weeks ago...
I'm having a hard time following you right now. Can you jump back to like ego reason and elaborate a bit on what you mean when you say that and take it from there?
Okay. No, I said what I really want is that I want to see other people grow and develop. And I talked about that as if that was coming from a very pure place. And I realized I'm not sure that it does. Maybe it's just a part of me that wants to feel significant. Maybe I feel inferior and I want to feel better about myself. And that is why I want to help other people.
Okay, so you want to see other people grow, and that could be that you're just happy to see other people grow, or it could be that you want to feel the importance of actually have helped other people to grow.
Yeah, and I would say most likely it's a mix. I'm far from pure, and I could say I want to get purer in my intention of doing that, but I think that is a good place to start, to say that, okay, this might be a mixed bag of intentions here.
Yeah. It's like you do it both because you love it and because it kind of validates you in this.
Yeah, and I think it's a similar case for you. For example, you want to be on big stages and be a public speaker and be in the limelight and be in social media. And I'm sure there is one aspect of you that is very pure, that want to influence and improve people's lives. And I'm sure there's one aspect of you that is more of a inferior ego thing, that wants to be seen and wants to feel significance because it feels a bit inferior. Yeah,
No, I'm 100% pure.
You're
in this.
pure. That's good to know.
I just want to help people and do everything. It has nothing to do with my ego. Okay, yeah, I like attention. I'm an attention addict, and that's definitely a part of it.
Yeah, so that would be the exact same reason. For me, it's just that I'm not brave enough to do it as publicly as you're doing. If I was, I probably would seek the same attention.
Makes sense. Yeah, okay, so basically 10 years from now, you want to be better at helping people then. What does that mean?
Yeah, what that means is, because help, it's almost like someone has a problem, I get in there to solve that problem. And I think when it feels the best to me is when it's happening in an indirect way. And what I mean by that is, for example, I have chosen to be completely sober for 2 years now. I'm not using any alcohol, anything. I'm not using anything. And mostly for health reasons, and that I want to be able to give as much as I can to my development and to growth. And 2 weeks ago, my friend Anthony walked up to me. We were out on a party, and he said, "Man, you're such a big inspiration to me. The fact that you are going out and you're going out sober and you're being social, that gives me permission and it makes me want to do it even more." And I talked with my friend the other day, and he said he would try being sober. So I didn't inspire him. I just told him about you. Right? So I'm indirectly influencing someone 2 steps away from me. So the reason I want to learn these skills is, if I want to inspire people to be better leaders, it's not something I want to help them with or tell them. If they could see that behavior in me. So I want to embody the behaviors that could influence others. That is why I want to learn these skills. I want to indirectly affect people.
It's beautiful. So basically creating ripple effects around you by just living in a way that you believe in. It's like, this feels like a great way of living.
Very well put, that I believe in. I believe this is healthy for me, and other people around me, they can choose to emulate that if they choose to.
Yeah. So basically, you believe that eating a diet based on only meat, that or maybe could be a very good thing, but instead of telling everyone else, hey, you should try this, it's more like, I'm living this way, I'm feeling this way, and that's it. And people can then ask questions or be inspired if they are. Exactly.
So I'm not leading. They can see an effect that I get and ask questions if they are interested. And this is something that I haven't done before. I've been a preacher for most of my life. So I have an idea. I think that I know better than everyone else, humble as I am. And then I push those ideas into the face of others, even though it's not asked for. I still do that sometimes. I do it less, I hope. But
yeah, you do it less as well. We both got that gift of shoving down our ideas down the throat of others. It's a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
Mainly a curse.
So that would be active influence. And I haven't put it this way before. But I'm really inspired to be someone that more is doing indirect influencing.
So if we translate this into a quality, and so I want to be less jealous, or I want to feel more self-compassion or self-love, or whatever it is that creates less jealousy, because to be less jealous doesn't really make sense. How would you put this in like a sentence? What is it that you want to accomplish?
I want to make decisions in my life where I become so joyful, healthy, a strong speaker, a strong leader, that people can either see what I do and replicate, or they're going to want to ask questions because they can see the results that I get. And I want to speak from there. Is that making sense?
Well, I think so. It's a bit hard to grasp. So basically, you want to live a life you believe in, and you want to be good at communicating that in an indirect way.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
you, for example, one of your biggest tenets is just begin. And you created a YouTube video about that, one of your first videos that you created. And I listened to that, and it barely affected me. And then now I see that you have this year started a social media rampage, having no idea what you're doing. And 6 months later, you have found a CPO for our company, and you have actually gotten really good at it. Right? That changes me. Because now I'm getting into social media.
Yeah, I can see the difference.
Right?
So it's basically hearing a message doesn't mean that much. Seeing a message and then feeling the message and understanding the message is a big difference.
And I think even to go even deeper, I think one word you said right now really sticks out for me, and that is joy. I want to be someone that can bring a lot of joy to a lot of situations. And that requires my body to be joyful. It requires my emotions to be joyful, my psyche to be joyful. So I want to upgrade in many areas, in my relationships to be joyful, so I can bring more of that into every interaction, into every moment that I exist in, if that is making sense.
Yeah, so 10 years from now you want to be a golden retriever.
Yeah! And it's not in my DNA like stupid Oscar. I have to work for it.
He didn't even have to work for it.
I have to work for it.
Okay, you wanna embody the soul of a golden retriever.
I think somewhere deep down, that is my soul. If I was a dog, I think I would be a golden retriever.
Yeah, it would be a good golden retriever, that's for sure.
So what else do you want to be in 10 years?
So I got the question yesterday about, okay, what's my goal with these things? Why am I doing what I'm doing right now? Because on the outside, it doesn't really make sense. And
what is it that don't make sense? Just to clarify.
Yeah, so podcasting, for example. Why am I podcasting? Why does that make sense? What do I want to achieve with that? Why am I going on a social media rampage? Why do that make sense? I've founded Great.com, that will be a company that gives away 100% of the profit. Why does that make sense? What is it that I want to accomplish with all these things? And the question was like, okay, do you really want to help people? Or do you just want to be famous? Or what do you want to do? And it brought me to the question then, what is it that I want to do? And what is it that I want to see Great becoming 10 years from now? And I felt like, okay, I want to help people in whatever way possible. And what I mean by that is I want to have positive effects on the biggest number of people possible and the biggest effect possible. And that could be anything from inspiring someone listening to us talking to getting pure water to someone in an African village and everything in between. And what I want to do is create a trend where companies start giving away their profits or part of their profits to charity in a much bigger extent that's going on right now. And I believe the best way I can do that is doing exactly what you just said, indirectly. I'm not going to preach this and tell other companies to do it, but I can start an organization that does just that. And I can talk about it in a way that if someone wants to listen, they'll find me. And if someone resonates with what we're saying, they might start thinking the same way. And I've gotten a lot of emails from mainly young people in their 20s saying like, wow, I really want to start a company and do this as well. And to me, that's proof that if we keep doing this for 10 years, other people will at least give that a try and see if it makes sense, if it makes them happy, and if they can create a positive impact on the world. So I want to be, I basically want to be that organization. I want to live those values. I want to be in an organization which spreads joy, as you mentioned, but is also very honest, very transparent with everything's going on, that can stand in the truth of this is our mission, this is what we're doing because we believe in it. And have that indirect effect on this and see where this can take us.
Right. So you want Great to embody the values of joy, honesty, transparency. So, and you want to give away all of the profits. And someone that is skeptical to this might be saying, well, how can you even run a business like that? A business like that would lose. It would lose in structure. It would lose in business opportunity. It would leak money. It would spend money on unnecessary things. Do you think it's realistic to build a company like that?
Okay, so to answer the first questions, yes, we will definitely leak money. We will do mistakes. We will give away business secrets that would benefit the cause of keeping. We will, probably at some extent have a lot of extra politics around salaries and stuff because we want to do it in a different way. We're going to have a lot of extra debates or things about how to create a policy about something. Like, for example, right now in Great, we're talking about how should we deal with public holidays, because we're spread over 7 countries and 5 countries, 7 people, and there are different public holidays everywhere. And I would love the team to come up with a solution, which takes a lot of time, and time is money in any business, instead of like it would be in my previous business where it's like, okay, this is the rules, this is what we do. One person kind of decides. So I believe that long term, that creates opportunity and that creates an organism that loves what they're doing. Short term, it creates a lot of hassle. So I can definitely see that we're gonna cause problems, and I don't know how to solve these things. I don't know if it's gonna work out. I truly hope so, and I deeply believe that it's possible to build this, but I've never built it. I haven't seen anyone else build it. So this is all still based on, as you mentioned before, like an idea and an answer that we are trying out, and then we'll see where it ends up.
So is it okay if I keep digging here?
Go dig.
All right, because
you need a shovel, not just a finger.
I know you're spending a lot of time right now on social media. You are right now spending time preparing a public speak that you will have in Sweden for a group of teenager young entrepreneurs, where you want to spread these kind of ideas. And what you said is time is money, right? So all the time you spend on social media or making this presentation is time that you could have spent in the company developing a product that would have made money for Great, that could have been donated. So is this kind of inspiration, could it be bad for the world even? Because that is money that could have been donated if you made more money.
I believe that this goes back to what I said before, that short term, this is a horrible idea. It's a really shitty idea for me to spend hours and hours on preparing a speak for teenagers. From a business perspective, for Great, that's a horrible investment. Once again, long term, I believe that maybe for Great and maybe for the world, it will have a positive impact. If I can inspire these people to think in somewhat different way, and if I can continuously do these things over the next 10 years and get really, really good at it, and hopefully millions of people will see this one way or another and feel inspired by it, then I think that will have a much more positive impact than me spending those extra hours building a product or building a commercial business. Because if I could theoretically impact 1 million people and a lot of different business owners, and I can shift their way of thinking or inspire them of thinking about giving or doing things that I believe in, like 1%, that's probably going to have a bigger impact than just me focusing on one thing. And this is, once again, all theory, and I'm trying it out. And I'm hoping that 10 years from now, I can look back and say, good job, Eric, high five with you, 31-year-old you were right. And if not, I'm hoping I can sit down with you and other people and like, okay, why did this not work out? And do it differently for the next 10 years.
Okay, so you want to create a company that becomes very big, gives away all of its profits, and you want to inspire other business owners and our fellow humans in the process. So if that is what you want to do in 10 years, how do you need to grow for that to happen? What kind of skills do you need to embody that you're not currently able to?
So one of the things is what we touched upon earlier, like feeling more joy. I think that a happy person has a stronger impact on other people than not. And if I can be genuinely happy for everyone around me, I will also enjoy the process a lot more. So I think that's a big thing. I think public speaking and social media is another big thing, that if I can convey my ideas in an inspiring way, then that's gonna be a big part of this. If I'm in that process become a better leader, because well, social media to me is a lot about being a leader and everything around it, then it highly improves the likeliness of this happening. And then there are more basic skills, so to speak, like recruitment. I need to be better at recruitment because I'm not very good at that at the moment. Processes and how to get things into these Trello, this business development tool, how to work with that in a structured way and share that knowledge over a big team. I am horrible at that. And I can see that being a necessary, tricky word, skill to take from this. And there's so many other things around this that I have not mastered, but it's a part of how I want to live my life.
Right, that makes sense.
How do you see great in 10 years from your perspective?
I just see a maze of different opportunities. It's my brain doesn't give me one image because there are so many different paths we could go. We could go into more the influencer path or the straight up do one product with casino affiliation path, or we could go deep into charity. I don't know, honestly. I think my emotional connection to Great is that this would be a place where if I spend my time, I will have a workload and tasks that feels good to me and that I enjoy doing, and tasks that are in line with what I want to learn anyway. A place where I can grow, and a place that matches my values. So I think Great embodies the values that you want to be as a person, and you and me want to be kind of similar. I don't like to say the word role model myself, but something to that end.
Yeah, I think you sum it up well there. That's the kind of feeling I want everyone working with this to have. Like it's something where they feel passionate about, where they're growing as human beings, and that aligns very well with what they want to do with their lives and how they want to grow. And then creating something, an organization that enables that. That by being here, you can focus on all the things that really matters to you, because hopefully that's what matters to the organization.
Are you ready to move on? Because I have a question about the podcast.
Sure.
So, what is it that we want to give to someone listening to this?
So what I want to give.
Maybe this is the first time someone listens, and what can they kind of expect to get out of listening to this? And what do we want to give?
So what I want to give is, I think, two things. Let's start with two things, and we'll see where my mind takes me. So one of them is deep and honest conversations about these kind of things. That I would love to see more emotions and transparency and honesty, especially between two young men, because that's something that I feel that I haven't had enough around me. People talking to each other from an open and vulnerable place. So those kinds of conversations is something that I would like to see more about in the world, and then I'd like to bring more of that to the table. And another thing is very concrete and specific ideas that other people can apply, that comes from our conversations, comes from our ideas, and that we have taken to the real world and tested, like, okay, we learned this really works. So one episode I'd like to do in the future, for example, is this is the basic tips that made it easier for me to do social media. Like, this is how it became less scary. Because I've spoken to a lot of people who said, I would like to get to do more on social media, but it scares the shit out of me. And it is scary, but there are tricks to do that makes it less scary. There are preparations to do, there are channels to choose. And I like to do an episode like that. Like, this is the key specific things that you could apply if you want to do this. So maybe that conversation isn't very vulnerable because it's a instruction more than a conversation, but I love that thing as well. So I like to do both these kinds of episodes and maybe divide them into those two categories. What do you want to bring?
I really like the way you put the first part of your answer there, that we can inspire just by the way in which we have a conversation. And I think that is the feedback that I have gotten on this podcast that makes me the most happy, is someone is saying that I love to hear the way you two speak rather than the things you speak about. And sure, I think when you and we had done our research, we have tried things in real life. Maybe we have tried social media, now we can speak about it with confidence. We have tried a strategy for recruitment. We have done 2 months of research on personal finance. I love to bring that specific value. And at the same time, what I really want to give is the way we are speaking to each other, especially if it becomes real and if it becomes emotional. And I want to be better at giving that, because I think that is where things become interesting, when it becomes real and honest.
So if this is the first episode that someone has listened to, or which episode would you say describes this well? Where would you go to next one after this one?
One episode that sticks out, and for the reason that I think one of the big challenges for me starting this podcast is that when we begin, if you listen to the first couple of episodes, we only wanted to share stuff that we already know and that we are comfortable with. And we have realized during these 20 episodes that we think it's most interesting when we don't know the answer to a question and we explore it and we upgrade our thinking rather than wanting to share something that we already know. And I think one great example of that is episode number 4, that is called Great Gambling. It's called Gambling Addiction. And where we explore the kind of damage that we have done to other people, both me as a professional poker player and you as a facilitator of gambling, a gambling online marketer for gambling. And that one becomes very real. I think we talk about suicide, we talk about hurting other people, and we didn't prepare that, which made it be very real. So when we explore things in a real way, that is where I like this the most.
Yeah, I think that's episode where the first time where we ended up in that area. The ones before we prepared a lot more scripted, like, okay, this is what we want to share.
Yeah.
And then on that conversation that we had, we kind of accidentally ended up in places we hadn't really prepared for, and we went with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of invented the explorative conversation for us in this format, in that episode.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in the beginning we wanted to be a lot more playful and do silly metaphors and a lot of that things. And I think the intention with that was really good. We wanted to make this fun. And at the same time, I think we are not the best people on the internet to do comedy, right there. I don't think we're terrible, because humble as I am. But at the same time, there are many people that do it way better than us. But I think what we are good at is to have these kind of conversations and do logical reasoning and problem solving. I think that is where we're actually thrive. So for example, in this conversation, I wasn't prepared that you would talk about being jealous. And now I really want to know how am I thinking with jealousy? And we can learn from each other. And I think if we can have a conversation where we actually learn something, that to me is the point of this podcast. Us learning and giving the opportunity for others to eavesdrop.
Yeah, I like that.
Which is your favorite episode so far?
Okay, so thinking about this as two different things then. One of them where these kind of conversations really flourish, and one of them being where it's really specific tips and guidance and advice that I love to see myself and I love to take part of. Then the first episode that brings to mind is the one we did about sending emails, and basically how to reach people, how to make them smile, and how to make people excited about replying to an email and actually really want to interact with you. And that could apply to email, or it could apply to just real life. And it's episode number 14. It's called Email Something. And to me, that's the one where I see it adds the most concrete value to someone who actually wants to learn something that could change their business life or personal life for that matter. Where, yeah, I receive a lot of emails from various people, and I've noticed that some emails make me a lot more excited to reply and some don't. And what we did in that episode was kind of go over the thought process of why some of them have made me excited. And to me, that's something that can be applied just the next minute. And I'm excited about that. So that's where, depending on if you want to hear more about the honest conversations, then episode 4, Gambling Addiction, is probably the best way to start. And if you want specific advice, then I would go to the email episode 14.
All right. I think that is a great way to wrap this episode up. So, do you have something else to say before we end this?
Welcome to this podcast if you're listening for the first time. We're very happy to have you here, and we're proud to know that you've listened to the end.
That is impressive. And if you have any questions, any feedback, anything you want to hear from us, send an email to podcast@great.com. See ya.
Thank you. Schluff.